How does it feel to be an American classic? I mean a roast, of course. There's one in this bag at some point. You've probably seen one, smelled one, and hopefully gotten to taste one. But have you ever actually tried to make one? Because it's hard to find a good roast. A lot of people see chuck roast in the grocery store and just walk on by because it looks really intimidating. It's a huge chunk of meat. But today we're gonna fix that, and by the end of this video, you're gonna have at least one meal that everyone's crazy about. Hi guys, I'm Amari and I really like to cook, so let's go ahead and get to this kitchen. This is the biggest slab of meat that some people will ever lay their hands on, and we're gonna start cooking it by marinating it overnight. I was doing this while I was watching the basketball game, but in the marinade, we're gonna use all of our herbs and wine and onion and garlic and just let it sit overnight. But I've been so time crazy lately, I finally just broke down and bought a whole plant. And I also bought a whole bunch of garlic, so we're gonna put a lot of garlic into this roast. I'm gonna mash up about 5 heads and just put them in the bottom. I'm gonna layer everything into the bottom, so the meat can just hold everything down under the wine. And we're gonna save the other half of this onion for later. And I don't know how, but surprisingly I had everything I needed for this roast already at home except for the roast. And shout out to my family in Walmart for that roast because beef is high. But everyone always goes cuckoo when I make roast, so they're willing to give me whatever I need for it. Beef and red wine are a classic combination, but a lot of people don't realize that not only does wine get your legs loose and lips loose and whatnot, it also loosens up the meat. But I'm gonna talk a little bit more about that in a few seconds. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and layer this beef on top of all of our herbs, garlic, and onion before we pour that wine over. We want all of our herbs and aromatics to be fully submerged by the wine just so the alcohol in the wine can kind of pull out those compounds we can't get without it. As you can see, the whole marinating process is pretty straightforward and easy, so I don't quite understand why so many people make dry roast. Every time I've had a roast over the past few years that I didn't make myself, it's been kind of dry. And now I'm thinking that people either forgot how to marinate overnight or they're just cooking the meat too high. I don't think anybody's roast should be done in 30 minutes. That's going to be basically a brick if you're doing it in the oven, unless you're in a pressure cooker. Pressure cooker is a special case and something I don't want to dive into because I'm scared I'm going to blow up my house if I ever use one. So I'm going to have to research before I ever try to touch a pressure cooker. When you soak something in wine, it breaks down the meat a little bit and acts like a tenderizer, and it gives it a really nice flavor. But if you can't get wine, just soak it in beef broth overnight or just totally skip the step altogether. So now we're going to go ahead and take this meat out of the marinade. And from the marinade, you're going to want to take out the parsley and bay leaves. I'm going to use a strainer, but we do want to keep all of the marinade. Don't get rid of it, just sit it to the side. And you can already feel at this point that the meat's way more tender than it was when you put it in. And this is random, but I oddly enjoy how purple it looks. But now I have to go ahead and cut on this crock pot and get to work. I'm going to use my cast iron to sear this on both sides for 1 minute. And I'm going to use that strainer to strain out the parsley and the onions and all the other good stuff from the marinade. I didn't think I had one, I just kind of randomly found it in the drawer. And I know getting rid of the parsley, thyme, and bay leaves seems really wasteful, but most of the flavor we would have gotten out of them has been leached out into the wine. Now we're going to add in fresh garlic, parsley, and thyme, and 2 more bay leaves into that pot of marinade. And once we get our parsley in, I'm going to go ahead and add in 2 beef bouillon cubes because I don't have any beef broth. And I'm going to add in 1 cup of water. From my experience, having a really concentrated beef broth normally tastes a little bit better to me. Now it's time to move back over to this big slab of meat. We're going to go ahead and pat it dry so it can properly brown. But as soon as we get it dry, we're just going to season it generously with salt and pepper. Do way more salt and pepper than you actually think you need. And just give it like a really nice and sensual massage to help it relax before you brown it. You have to be extra nice to it so it tastes good. Now that that chuck roast is done, my cast iron is hot, shiny, and ready to go, so we're going to go ahead and put the roast in there and let it do its thing. But in the background, we're going to be boiling that marinade so we can get rid of any of the bitter taste from that alcohol, or at least make it a little bit less harsh. I learned that from Martha Stewart. If you made it this far in the video, thank you for sticking around, but now I'm going to ask you to comment purple because I'd like to know who's watching these videos. Only about half of you are actually subscribed, and I haven't seen some of my regulars in a while. And now that we're done boiling our marinade, we're going to go ahead and just pour it straight into the crock pot. And even though I may sound like a hater, I promise you I genuinely believe that anyone can make a good roast or make a good meal for themselves. You just have to have the time and be willing to put in the effort. Nobody wakes up born knowing exactly how to make the most perfect pot roast or perfect meal ever. You have to try over and over and over again until you finally get it how you want. Now for the bacon, I got that out of this buffalo mullet recipe and I can't remember exactly what that does. But if I do, I'll make a reel about it. So I laid down to go back to sleep and somehow I almost forgot one of the most important components, the potato. My rule of thumb is 1 potato per person because I don't know anyone who eats more than 1 baked potato at a time, but if you know someone who eats 2 baked potatoes at a time, add in an extra potato just for them. So now that we're in the last hour and a half or so of our cook, I'm going to cook down 1.5 onions. I thought I want to caramelize them until they were jammy like in that one video, but honestly I just don't have it in me, so I'm just going to do it like this. The onions won't fully melt in how I like, but they'll be in there. I'm making this in a crock pot because you can't go wrong with the crock pot, but I'm gonna make the slurry so when I try to thicken this sauce in the crock pot, it won't be like lumpy and weird textured. But if you're doing this in the oven, just pour the liquid into a pot on the stove and just reduce it down. If your gravy's thick enough to coat the back of a spoon, you don't need to make a slurry. So generally speaking, if you're doing this in the oven, don't even worry about it. But if you're like me and doing this in a crock pot, you might want to go ahead and put your crock pot on high for the last 20 minutes and put the slurry in. In hindsight, I don't even know why I attempted to do this. I was taking this out to put this in a glass pan because I thought I was going to serve it and take a nice thumbnail in the glass. But if you can cut your roast with a spoon like this, you know it's good to go. Normally people cook it past that stage and that's the problem. But 6 hours of waiting was pretty worth it. Okay guys, I'm actually not that hungry, but I need to please my fans. I'm going to get a piece of this by itself first. Nice and tender. I don't know if you were around when I made that video of me making that coq au vin, but it has like that vague wine taste that I really like a lot. And you really get that wine taste in the potatoes and the carrots because of how long they got to soak in there. Okay, I know I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10 for sure, but I think out of all of the beef roast I've made, I put it in the top 2. And the only reason I say it's not number 1 is because there was one beef roast that I made like years ago. I remember being really good. It tasted even better the next day. So I think I'm going to give this about 10 Amaris. But I hope you guys enjoyed this and I'll see you in the next video.